Alright, I need to say this. I've been seeing a lot of talk that Astrobot is a Game of the Year contender. Astrobot is so good. Astrobot is maybe one of the best games released ever. I just finished Astrobot, and I need to get this off my chest. Astrobot is not great. Astrobot is not even good. Astrobot is perfect. It's perfect. The music is perfect. The level design is perfect. The game length, perfect. Character design, perfect. The fidelity, the visuals, just the style and presentation of the game is perfect. This is a perfect game. There is nothing wrong with it. So yeah, without going any further, if you just want to know if Astrobot is worth your time, it's the most worth your time game I've played in a very, very long time. But you may be thinking, okay, it's worth my time, sure, you say that, but I'm not actually sure I'd like to play this game. So let me just rattle off a few things, and if you fall into any of these categories, I'm sure that you will like Astrobot. Do you like 3D platformers? If so, you will like Astrobot. It is unlike any 3D platformer I've ever played. I think the closest comparison in recent memory is Super Mario Odyssey, and even then it stands out in its own way against Super Mario Odyssey. Do you like video games and video game history? If so, you'll like Astrobot. Do you like having fun? Astrobot. Do you hate 3D platformers? Astrobot. It's unlike any 3D platformer I've ever played. Do you hate sitting in traffic? Astrobot. Do you have a PS5? Astrobot. Do you only have a PC, Xbox, Switch, or none of these? Go get a PS5, play Astrobot. Looking for something a little spooky to play this Halloween season? Astrobot. Looking for something fun to play come Christmas time? Astrobot. Are you currently breathing oxygen produced by photosynthesis? If so, play Astrobot. It is perfect. The game is so perfect, it could die on the cross for our sins and we'd all be forgiven. Okay, maybe not that perfect, since I did run into like 3 visual bugs, but that's it. If I haven't convinced you yet, I'm going to do my level best to talk about this game without being completely amped. So you know that feeling you get when you look back on the good old days of playing video games. You'll remember games back in the day, just they used to feel different. Sure, you remember that games were fun, but in addition, you almost certainly remember the feeling that they gave you. The world's problems didn't weigh you down as much as they do today. There was no social media to tell you what games you liked or didn't. Maybe you subscribed to a gaming magazine that gave you review scores, but those came in well after the games were already released. You had to save to just buy one game. When you think back to those times, you may have this longing in your heart to get back to the good old days, not just in terms of video games, but just like life in general. Astrobot is absolutely the closest I have come in the past 10 or so years of gaming as an adult to replicating that feeling. I can show you clips from this game and do my best to explain what makes Astrobot fun, but you won't be able to understand the exact feeling that playing Astrobot will give you until you try it for yourself. I can show you literally all of the boss battles, which are the best boss battles I've ever experienced in a 3D platformer and perhaps in gaming just period. The bosses aren't too challenging, but the spectacle for each and every one of them are way over the top, demanding you to admire the creation that Team Asobi put in front of you, while also having you try to piece together the puzzle-like combat required for defeating each one of them. The final boss being one of the most creative endeavors I've ever had the pleasure of encountering in a 3D platformer, firmly setting this game's place as having some of the best boss design that I think I've ever encountered. I could tell you about each and every one of these towering menaces and break down why they are good, and you could watch the entire fight for every single one of them. But until you actually get a controller in your hand and defeat one for yourself, you won't understand quite what I mean. I could tell you about how each level is designed with such unique individuality that no 2 levels feel the same. Sure, there are multiple lava levels or multiple sea levels or multiple sky levels, but just because the backdrop is the same doesn't mean that the content is. In one sky level, you may be getting introduced to the mechanics of the game. It will even give you some underwater elements to the level. While in another, you may be rocketing across from building to building in the midst of a construction zone. There are mechanics in Astrobot that some games would spin into 3 or 4 different levels, maybe even make an entire game out of them, and Astrobot uses them once and then it's just like done with that mechanic. This was apparently something that Team Asobi was very conscious of as they were designing their game as well. They wanted everything to feel fun, and as soon as an element of the game started to feel like it was teetering on the edge of being a rehash, they cut it from their game to keep Astrobot from feeling stale at any time. And this strategy really paid off in the level design. Though something they did implement into almost every level that never got old is this mini objects system. That is actually what they call it, by the way, and it is exactly what it sounds like. Usually some part of a level is specifically designed to host these tiny objects that you can knock around, and the way they get creative with this is really fun. It may be sprinkles on one level, flowers in another, or acorns in the next. I always found myself excited when there were just a bunch of tiny objects on the screen, at first going from being impressed by this mechanic to just downright having fun with it. I could tell you about each individual level and each individual world and why each one of them stand out in their own way, both with respect to the game itself, but also when compared to any other 3D platformer, that this game is simultaneously both the best Ant-Man game I've ever played and the best Quicksilver game I've ever played, but until you get a controller in your hand, you won't fully understand what I'm talking about. I could tell you how, unlike most other 3D platformers, the things that you were collecting in Astrobot actually matter. Sure, other games have things like a different outfit for Mario and Mario Odyssey, but Astrobot stands out amongst the crowd in that what you are collecting directly impacts how and what you can interact with. The bots that you collect appear in your hub world and all have their own interactions. There are puzzle pieces that you collect here, and after so many, they create a new building in your hub world, the first being a gacha machine that is a pure joy to interact with. Team Asobi somehow put a gacha machine in this game that I could not wait to go and spend my coins on to see what accompanying item my little bots were going to get. I mean, right down to the haptics that they use for this machine. There's a little bit of resistance when you pull a lever to buy something, and then some resistance when you break the ball to see what you got, and it feels so satisfying to purchase something from this gacha machine every single time. And everything I got from this machine, regardless of if I knew what game the bot was from or not, made me smile. Then I would go over and punch the little dude just to see what changed now that they had their key item. I could tell you about the Pikmin-like hub area you explore, or how there's so much attention to detail on every little thing you do or interact with. I mean, from the very beginning of the game, you can go up and punch this unsheathed PS5. Nothing tells you to go and do that, but if you satisfy your curiosity, you'll be rewarded with a unique interaction for each component of the PS5's inner workings. I could tell you that the haptics for the DualSense controller in Astrobot are completely unmatched. No other game comes even close to using this controller like Team Asobi have done here, or that I think this may be the only game I recommend playing without headphones, because the way the controller speaker is used somehow adds an extra layer that increases the immersion while playing that you would totally miss if you were playing this game with headphones on the entire time, which is something I don't think I've said about any other PS5 game. I honestly typically hate that little speaker in my controller, but somehow here Team Asobi have made it essential to the experience. And speaking of experience, let's talk about the music. Boy. On YouTube right now, you could even go and listen to the entire soundtrack of this game. Each one of the tracks are a complete banger, and I think you could pick up on that just listening to it, but until you listen to these tracks in conjunction with playing the levels they were designed for, the music will just not hit the same as it does when you're actually playing the game. I could show you the cameo appearance that had my jaw on the floor because it was from the first ever video game that I remember playing on the original PlayStation with my dad on our beige couch that was lined with some weird green trim. I was probably too close to the TV that was smaller than what I remember it being, and I would kick my legs up every single time I pressed the jump button. They had that appearance in here, and that appearance made so many memories flood back to me. I just sat there for like a solid 2 or 3 minutes just staring at my screen with my mouth open. But until you experience something like that for yourself, you won't know what this game is like to play. I do, however, have 2 or 3 complaints that I think are wrong with Astrobot. The first being the visual glitches. But actually, now that I think about it, I ain't even mad about them. They were so minor, just scratch that actually. That's not a complaint, okay? The second complaint that I have is I have a memory, and I am unable to forget what I just played, so I cannot experience this game for the first time again. And I guess the third is that I don't think there's a New Game Plus mode, which is completely unnecessary, but I mean, come on Asobi, I want to play as a cow from the very beginning of the game. One criticism I have heard about Astrobot is there's not enough enemy variety. While I understand why that may be a complaint for some, the lack of enemy variety was overshadowed by the mini and main bosses that I was constantly facing, and really to me, the enemies served as little more than a small obstacle as you traverse and explore your way through these inspiring levels. One thing I did find fun was the baddies would always wear appropriate headgear for their level, so they may wear some sort of flower crown in a nature level, and floaties on the beach level. One concern you may have as you watch this gameplay is that you may think that it's just too easy. It is easy for the most part, there isn't much of a challenge here, but there are 17 secret levels that have a bit more challenge on offer, and left me to restart them because of my own failures many times. I would like to reiterate though, that the enemy variety, combat, and overall challenge was not what kept me coming back to this game. What kept me coming back was the sheer amount of creativity and fun packed into every single level. I have a daughter. She's 3. I'm not going to make the point here that she liked to watch me play Astrobot and liked to play it with me. I'm not going to make the point about how she would reach for the controller each time I got a new bot. She wanted to shake it around with all the bots inside, then toss them up into the air. No, that's not the point I'm going to make. Instead, I want to say that she likes to read books. I like to read books to her. One of the books she likes to read is Green Eggs and Ham by Dr. Seuss. Green Eggs and Ham is about Sam. Sam I Am. Sam is trying to convince Man? I don't think his name's ever given, but I just looked it up and apparently they made a spin-off TV show and named him Guy I Am, which is objectively worse than not having a name at all. Okay, calm down. So Sam is trying to convince Guy to eat green eggs and ham, and Guy says, I do not like green eggs and ham. But here's the thing, Guy has not tried green eggs and ham. If you are thinking Astrobot isn't the game for you, you have not tried Astrobot. You will like this game in a boat, and with a goat, and in the rain, and in the dark, and on a train, and in a car, and in a tree. It is so good. So good, you see. You will like this game in a box, and with a fox, and in a house, and with a mouse. You will like it here and there. You will like it anywhere. You will like Astrobot. You will like it. Viewer hot. I don't know. That was clever up until the last part. Oh, an awful lot. Let's try that again. You will like Astrobot. You will like it an awful lot. Regardless of where you find yourself in life. Regardless of if you think you'll like this game or not. Regardless of all preconceived notions, if you've held off on playing Astrobot until now, go and play Astrobot. It is so much worth your time. You know what else is worth your time? Clicking that subscribe button if you are not subscribed and you enjoyed the video. And if you already did that, clicking the like button. And if you've already done both, leaving a comment. I look forward to talking to you in the comments about this game and about the video. Any interaction at all just helps me continue to want to make these videos. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.